Hi, I'm Don Bodan from SampleLibraryReview.com. Today we're going to be checking out Berlin Orchestra, created with Berklee by Orchestral Tools. Orchestral Tools teams up with one of the world's preeminent music schools, providing students, educators, and now you with their new flagship Berlin Series sample libraries. Created specifically for the Berklee students, for the Berklee College of Music curriculum, this will allow the students to write in a way you would for real orchestra. Can't wait to see what they've done with this sample set. Berlin Orchestra, created with Berklee downloads, is 91 gigabytes. Includes full orchestral instruments with strings, harps, woodwinds, brass, percussion, with both solo instruments and some full sections. Sampled in situ, that's where they're seated in the orchestral hall. And these are samples from the Berlin series. These are Orchestral Tools' creme de la creme of sampled orchestral instruments. It's recorded at Teledeck's scoring stage in Berlin. Now, this library has up to 8 articulations per instrument and only one mic mix position. It does run in the free sign player and normally sells for €849. Special intro price going on right now, €649 until September 22nd. If you've been watching the channel for a while, then you know one of my favorite things to do with a full set of orchestral instruments is do a mock-up of a very streamlined yet powerful piece of orchestration. Let's listen to the Berlin Orchestra, created with Berklee, playing an excerpt of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Now, there's a few things going on here that I want to go ahead and break down and talk about. There is such a great sound to this library, and I think even with a limited orchestration, a small orchestra, I should say, like is used in Beethoven's Fifth, we're really going to be able to hear a lot of what's going on. Let's start with the strings. And stopping right there, I think one of the things that I was blown away with when I first put this together is that it's so clear, such a great room sound. So just using two simple sustains and staccato patches. Big limitations here for these string sections is we're limited to sustain and legatos, sustains, staccatos, spiccatos, pizzicatos, tremolos, and trills. That is all you get there. That's quite a bit. It could be, up to 90% of most compositions until you get into avant-garde territory. So for learning orchestration, plenty here. Now, the thing that really makes this jump out when I was starting to listen to the strings in context here is the solo instruments, or I call them first chairs. I'm going to turn those on. And you can kind of hear the difference. It's just going to add a little more definition, clarity, more space. So I'm just going to do that slowly, adding each instrument first chair in. Flipping them on and off there, what I definitely hear is a difference in presence, a slight difference in bite and clarity, especially when you hear it across the stereo spectrum. Let's jump over to the woodwinds. This is something that is always a make or break for an orchestra. Listening to these instruments individually, I really loved them. Listen to it together, it really does sound nice. Let's listen to just a little bit of playback from the woodwinds. So very clear, rounded sound. A lot of times when you have a woodwind section in an orchestra library playing together, the sample libraries tend to go a little organy, but what I love about this one is the clarity. I actually hear the individual instruments, the character of each of these, without them kind of becoming this homogeneous organ sound. The real standouts of these is the bassoon. Oh boy, I just love the sound of this instrument. Now, for me, another make or break instrument in the woodwind section is the oboe. And what I love about it is, again, the way this is done as a full orchestral instrument. That's just one sampled oboe. They do have a separate, completely different sampled oboe 2 in situ, in position there. I just love the sound of the brass in the room. And this is the horn ensemble. If we look over at the library, you'll see that what they've provided for our horns is a horn ensemble, but also horn 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can divide those up, get true divisi, hear what it would really sound like. I just used the horn ensemble patch for quick writing on this. Let's go ahead and listen to that little section again with just the entire brass as Beethoven wrote it. And then I'm going to kick in the timpani, which really adds another dimension to that part. For a lot of people, what makes or breaks a brass library is the trumpets. And I have to say, I'm really pleased with the sound of the trumpets with this just one mic mix they've supplied. Now, the way they've approached the low brass is you've got your trombone 1, trombone 2, bass trombone and tuba. Let's take a listen to this bass trombone. Overall, the brass has this incredible splat, really wonderful brassy sound to it. And again, that is just in the one mix that you get for this sample set. Now, you heard the timpani, and I just had the single hit instrument pulled up. And they've got it left and right hand across the keyboard. But what's nice about the way they have done the timpani as well as the other drums is they're set up with different articulations. You can see the single hits, I had loaded those up separately. However, you also had long rolls, short rolls, crescendos, and diminuendos. Now, what I hadn't checked out were these other percussion, so let's just have a listen to those together, shall we? And then with this roll articulation, what I really love about the ease of use of this is you simply have a roll, and then you can control it with your mod wheel for your dynamic range. Huge dynamic range on those rolls too, which is really nice. A lot of clarity. Then they have unpitched metals. Cymbals, gongs, whatnots, and then a whole bunch of performances. As well as another set of rolls for these. I think those you'll get a lot of use with the rolls because you're able to control those crescendos and have a little release sample with them as well. Whole set of percussion, orchestral percussion in there. Celeste, tubular bells, glockenspiels, marimbas, xylophones. Let's just listen to a couple of these. Now, the only thing I kind of want to go back to now is the strings, because I was kind of blown away by the sound of these strings. Again, not that the Berlin strings weren't great packaged sample libraries, but that I hadn't been able to get this good of a mix out of them myself. I have a sign player version, and I'm really loving that this is showing me the capabilities of those instruments without loading up a giant sample library. I'm able to get a really nice string sound here. And just with a quick mock-up playing with the sound of the string section, I really start to see the power, the potential of those first chairs. They're soloists, actually, is what they call them. And I love the way it's simplified and streamlined. The one mic mix here is wonderful. So final thoughts here for the library. There's a lot of detail, there's a lot of finesse, but there's a lot of power too. And I know that there's only 8 articulations, these core articulations, the essential articulations. I think they're going to get you pretty far if you're a student, if you're just starting orchestration, or if you're a seasoned media composer looking for a really great sounding, balanced orchestral package that does sound outstanding, in my opinion. I think that's who this library is for, making it an amazing entryway library if you just want to have something that you can grow into and not need to upgrade for quite a ways down the line. Now, there is some limitations. I mentioned the microphone positions, the one mix position. Is it a limitation? You tell me, because for the target audience, the student composer, the media composer who's trying to really get into orchestration, going into all those different microphone positions can really eat up CPU. So having this really wonderful microphone mix, one position only, nothing to think about there, I think is both a pro and con. The natural balance across all the instruments, all the voices, the authenticity of the orchestral sound, and the fantastic sample set from Teledex are what really make this a gem. I also have this thought here that it's in the sign player. It's still a young player. Orchestral Tools is continuing to update and get this thing as streamlined and solid across all platforms as it can, but I'm wondering if that might keep some people away from using the library. If you're not familiar with the Sign Player, you can get it for free. There's also a free Sign Factory subscription. I'll include a link to that. But when it comes to using Berlin Orchestra Created with Berklee, there's not a huge learning curve. You got some key switching, you got some simple programming with MIDI CCs, but the sound just sounds great right out of the box. Those are just my thoughts, though. I'd love to hear your thoughts along the way. Please let me know in detail. What are you thinking about this Berlin Orchestra Created with Berklee? A great way to get into the Berlin series, to get that sound, to get all the instruments in one and not fool around with mic positions. Is that something you're excited about? Is this something you might be using to learn orchestration, and will you be using it for your student compositions or mock-ups? I'd love to know your thoughts, what you think about this library. Please comment below and share it with me. Thanks for spending a little time with me here today. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and head back around for our weekly Deal Compressor show, recapping the latest news and sales offers for music software every Friday.